Welcome back to Through Rosy Window Into Wellness. Did you know that there's a Harvard study that's lasted for more than 80 years, and they're just exploring what makes a good life, what makes people happy? And I bet you can guess what it is. Last season, we talked about how not only does it take a village to raise a child, but it does take a village to support a whole family, to make connection, to reach out, to live happily, more healthfully. And you know, that's what that Harvard study talks about how relationships are the foundation of a happy, healthy life. So in this episode, we're so pleased that we got to speak to two people who are making quite a difference in our community. Oliver Hackmeister is the executive director at the North Peace Cultural Centre, where all sorts of groups come together. We hope you enjoy these excerpts from that wonderful interview.
Back in the 1970s, for those young people watching, there was a whole group of people here in Fort St. John that really felt that there was a need for a performing arts facility here in the community. We had a strong arts scene. There were a lot of dancers. There were a lot of painters. There was community bands, and there wasn't really anywhere to showcase that. Local theater would take over abandoned storefronts to put on shows for a couple weekends, and dance competitions would happen in school gymnasiums. And so they felt like a building that was dedicated for this purpose would be a significant improvement for the community. And it took them 20 years. They had to go through several funding requests. They had to go through several referendums. There was a lot of opposition to it because people felt like it was against their religion, opposition to the morality that they had. But ultimately, in 1992, the center opened, and here we are now, 32 years later. Well, it was definitely a long journey. I started doing sound for a band back in the early 90s, probably 1991. And when I finished up that tour, I decided that I did not like touring across Canada, but I did enjoy working in the technical aspects doing sound. So I went off to school in Vancouver to study sound recording, to work in a sound recording studio, and decided after 2 years of doing that I didn't want to live in a large center. And so maybe working in a recording studio like in Vancouver or Toronto would not be the right fit for me. So I returned to Fort St. John and gave up on my dream of working in the entertainment industry. And a year later, I was volunteering here at the theater when a friend needed my help doing microphones for a high school production. And it just sort of snowballed from there. I volunteered for 7 years. Then I got hired on as the technical director here at the Cultural Center doing lights and sound. And after 12 years of that, I took a bit of a break and came back a year later and started working in management. Probably we've changed our focus a little bit over the years, but we are still primarily a community presentation house. The Cultural Society brings in 6 acts to inspire and enhance what happens in the community already. But 90% of what we do is actually generated from inside the community. It's stuff that people in the community want to do already. There's a wide range of people who use the cultural center from within the community. We have the Watt Irish Dancers, Studio to Stage Dance Academy, Alchemy Dance Collective. So many of the schools use it for their own productions, whether it's just a simple Christmas concert, but even more so, schools now want to put on musicals. They find that the arts really helps the kids. And there's a real sense of belonging when you're part of a theater company. You work several months to get this up on stage, and you create connections with those people who are also striving towards the same goal. We have the community band, the community choirs, just so many different groups that use it. And then someone will just come out of the woodwork and say, hey, I want to do this. And they'll put together a show. Probably 10 years ago, there was a young man who didn't have money for university. So he put on a show with some of his friends to generate funds to get him to university. And I think that's something that we want to get behind all the time. So the building, not just in the theater, but we have a lot of other programs that happen throughout the building, both put on by ourselves and by other people. We run the art gallery, which showcases local artists' artwork in the store and in the exhibits. And that ranges from painters to sculptors to wood carvers and things that I don't even know what they are. Fiber arts, all sorts of different things. We also have meeting rooms and dance classes occasionally. We have paint nights that we bring in a local artist to help encourage aspiring artists to come and explore their art form. We have a Pokemon club, and people wonder why, as a presentation center, we might do a Pokemon club. And it's really because someone came up to us and asked, hey, would you do this? Would you be the place that we can come on a regular basis to play trading card games and to play board games? And we said yes. We're also home to the Fort St. John Public Library, which is not run by us, but is a benefit to the community. And that's really what we're here for, is to be a benefit to the community. One of the other programs that we have is our after-school care, which has an interesting story behind how it started. Our executive director at the time was recently come to Fort St. John, and he had his kids enrolled in an out-of-school care program. And one day he got a notice that his out-of-school program was shutting down. And there was nothing to replace it in the community. So we decided to contact Northern Health and see what was be involved in us running a program like that. And in 2 weeks, we had it up and running and transferred the majority of the students from that previous out-of-school care program into ours, and have continued it for the past several years. We do try to keep it with a bit of an arts focus so that we have something that helps us stand out from other out-of-school care programs. Me personally, I have to say that one of the things that I was particularly proud of was at the very start of the pandemic in 2020. We were told to shut down, we couldn't have an audience, and we didn't know what we were going to do. But we reached out to a number of young people who were planning on performing at our Performing Arts Festival, and we gave them the opportunity to have their performances filmed and then have an interview following it, talking about why they do what they do, what makes them happy doing it, why they want to do it. And that's dancers, and that was musicians, and anyone who was going to be missing out on having the festival that spring. they were invited to come and take part in it. And we took all of those interviews and those performances, and we did a 60-episode series and shared it on YouTube so that not just the kids got a chance to perform, but their families and friends got a chance to see them perform. And we were really proud of it. We had parents who came up to us and said, "Thank you so much for doing this. My child was struggling with the stress of not having this as an outlet while this pandemic was going on." And we didn't even think of that. We just wanted to give them the opportunity. But when they told us that, that made me realize that we have such an impact on the community. Something that's been on my mind recently is what kind of support we can have in the community. And one of the things that people probably don't realize that they can do themselves to support us or an organization like ours is tell your friends. If you're going to see a comic that's coming in or a musician that's coming in, tell your friends. Invite 2 people to come with you. We have 400 seats here in the theater behind me, and there's nothing worse than having only 60 people show up or 100 people show up. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but it's so disheartening to see people complain that they didn't hear about something when we advertise on the radio, we advertise on social media, we have our website, we're telling people, and then someone complains on a group that we're not advertising enough, and it's like, we don't have newspapers anymore. We put up posters, we have social media, we don't know what else to do except tell your friends. If you want to be a part of something great, be a part of something great, but make it great by bringing 2 people. I would encourage everyone to be a part of or to support is don't expect other people to do it for you. If you think that your community needs something, maybe you're the person to bring it. We deal with a lot of people who say that we're not doing enough. But as a nonprofit organization that's actually quite lean and quite not staff heavy, we can't do it all. So if you see a need, even if you think that we can help you with it, you might actually have to be the person who leads it. And we would encourage you to do that, because if you see the need in our community, other people will probably agree with you, and by doing it, you will make your community stronger. Well, I say that I'm the executive director of the society and we run this facility. I don't think that you need to have the physical building to do what we do, or to have the impact in the community that you could potentially have. See what's out there in your community. See how you can help. Try not to tear anyone down, but try to build everyone up. You could do what we do out of a bar. You could do what we do in a storefront, in a cafe. You could do it on a street corner, really. But if you are contributing to the community as a whole, you can be successful because you're making your community a better place to be. When I have a day off, and sometimes it feels like I only have a day off every week or one day off every 2 weeks, I try not to fill that day off with things. I really spend a day decompressing. I might read a book, and that might be all that I do that day. I might eat very poorly that day, but I just decompress. And that makes me better the next day when I have to go back. It's probably not always the healthiest thing, and there are other things that I should do, including exercising and things like that. But right now, when I have a day off, I try not to fill it with things.
Oliver does have quite a unique position in our community, and it's so wonderful that he's picked up the torch and he carries on bringing people together and facilitating these groups and organizations that can utilize such a beautiful facility as the North Peace Cultural Center. We mustn't forget that that building and that center was put in place by some hard-working people, the original founders of the North Peace Cultural Society, and how the whole community rallied industry partners, individuals, organizations, and businesses to bring that to fruition. And so our next guest may resonate more with some of you in smaller towns or bigger towns, or something that doesn't fit into a facility like the Cultural Center. Amber Rosario created a beautiful group called My Sister's Arms. She saw a need in the community. She couldn't find the group that she was looking for, so she created it herself. And I think we should all take note. She did a wonderful job, and it's grown so very quickly.
So I think My Sister's Arms benefits the well-being of the community because of how it's structured here, how the city is structured. There's a lot of partners that are out in the oil field, and if their partners are at home with their kids, it's not easy to find community. It's not easy to find the support. So by building this organization, when the women can come, it gives them that opportunity to have the community support connection and somewhere to just kind of let go, take care of the feeling of loneliness and isolation. A big part of this is remembering that you're a woman, remembering you're an individual, and building yourself up so that you can hold everything that's around you, everything that you're juggling. And I think as women, we forget to remember. We forget to remember ourselves. You know, we're a wife, we're a mom, but we forget that we're Amber. We forget that we're, yeah, that's not all of you. That's a piece of you. And this is also a piece of you. So I bring in co-hosts every month, and, when I can, I will host my tapping on my own. But so the idea is to bring in these co-hosts, these other speakers that have strengths and tools to give to the women to help them grow and help them remember. I had been doing my EFT tapping out of Nourishing Peace, out of Nina's space already. So I had a conversation with her about this. So that's in Fort St. John as well. And she donates that space to us graciously. We may outgrow it one day, which will be a good thing for us, but it'll be bittersweet to kind of leave that home behind. I also want to just mention all of the women that are within this community that are helping to build it by bringing their own stories together. So another component of My Sister's Arms is these walks that I've been arranging. And originally, like the group, it was not selfish, but it was a little bit for me because it was something that I needed, but it was also something I knew other women needed in order to connect and keep their bodies moving. So for me, I use it for accountability, inviting other women from the group to come along with me. And I think it's really beautiful when, we're walking through the community forest together, and or at the track if it's too cold, because that happens here. We're in the north. But these organic conversations happen, and all of a sudden you've bared your soul with these women that are usually strangers. But the beautiful part of it is the women that are in this community are so warm and open-hearted and caring, and all of a sudden you feel like, the weight has been lifted. And I believe that they feel that same way when they leave too. It's not something that's forced. It's just there. These similar personalities and these women that are just looking for more ways to connect and to feel like they're part of something. So a great thing about this community and the women is shedding light on and supporting one another by saying, I have a yoga class going on this day, and I have a breathwork class going this evening, and also sharing their friends or other people in the community, and just making other people aware of what they didn't know was actually happening in Fort St. John. Because if you're not following these pages on social media, you're not necessarily going to see the opportunities here. The thing that I'm most proud of with my Sisters Arms is watching women come in by themselves, even though they're afraid. They've gone over that hurdle and they've come through the door. That's the first step. Then I sit there and I watch them converse with the other women. And if they make it back to the next one, I start to see friendships forming, support starting to build. And that's what makes me proud that I started this not just for me, but for them. And I'm seeing the changes happen. That's what makes me proud. Yeah, so at this point, I think there's 250 mostly local women that are in the group. I think the advice I would give somebody else that is looking to build something that doesn't exist is just start. What you need will come to you. Trust in your own natural abilities. Even if you don't have professional training, you do have inner guidance, I think. And yeah, just trust yourself and go with it. Yeah, so my own mental health likely started in school. I didn't recognize what it was back then. Test anxiety, I would label it as now. I didn't have the support back then to know what was happening, the difficulties that I was facing in school. As I moved away from this town to go to college, I started realizing what it actually was. So now I know that it's anxiety and depression. There's labels on it now. And personally, I think for myself, it was a few years ago when I realized I was at a really low. And I think that was the awareness that I needed to now do something about what was happening. So it's honestly still a struggle, but now there's that acknowledgement and the labels, which help a little bit. And now I get to do something about it. Since I became aware of, anxiety and depression, I've been actively trying and also struggling still with it. But I came across EFT tapping, which is what I now do for my own business. And so I utilize that for myself as well as clients when I can. I'm also a busy mom. I do forms of meditation, try to get outside and walk, and now also building this own community of women, not just for them, but also for myself to find that support when I need to reach out and call people in that aren't in my immediate circle. So utilizing their strengths to help myself as well.
Sometimes being human can be quite complicated. Finding balance in a busy world, taking care of basic needs, navigating the most joyous occasions, and surviving tragedies. We move through life doing the very best we can for ourselves and for those around us. And at the end of the day, even though we're all unique and different, we're all looking for the same thing: to live as happily and healthfully as possible. In Season 2, we really focused on the importance of having a village, to support each other in raising children and living happily and healthfully. So this season we set out to go into Fort St. John with 3 goals in mind. The first was to suggest where one might find help if you're struggling. We hope that in discussing services that our health authority provides here in Fort St. John with Episode 1, Northern Health, perhaps it would encourage others to look into the services and resources that they have wherever you may live. Many services just aren't that apparent until you begin to really look. The importance of physical health care and those basic needs are so important for mental well-being. Organizations such as the Salvation Army can do such wonderful work to assist in helping families. There are countless organizations here in Fort St. John, in BC, across Canada, around the world, and it's okay to ask for help. The second goal this season was to inspire, to remind those listening that you can take responsibility for your well-being. The things that you do to take care of your own mental well-being may not look the same as those who we interviewed. Each person's self-care plan is slightly different. And although we only had time for a few of the organizations and businesses that make such a very healthy contribution to our community, there are countless ways to move, work, play, relax, get grounded, sing, dance, and enjoy increased mental well-being. You know you can begin exactly where you are, one step at a time. Some days are a little bit harder. Some days are a little bit easier. But as we build up this knowledge, this self-care, we become more and more resilient to enjoy the good times and the easier it is to weather the bad times. At the beginning of this episode, I mentioned a Harvard study. It spanned over 80 years and a couple generations of people. Dr. Robert Waldinger and Dr. Mark Schultz took the findings from that study and they wrote an excellent book. It's called The Good Life. In it, they summarized the findings of that study with the conclusion that happiness depends more on warm interactions with others more than any other factor. And with these findings, I guess the last goal of this season may be the most important. And just as we spoke of in Season 2, it does take a village. It does make a difference to your well-being to smile at a stranger and to connect with old and new friends. It was such a pleasure to showcase some of Fort St. John's successes, those people that did see a need in the community for themselves and for others, and they stepped up and they created wonderful spaces and wonderful groups and wonderful connections, opportunities. We hope that these stories will inspire you. On behalf of all of us here at Rosy Window Productions, thank you for spending some time with us. We know that we should not look at the world through rose-colored glasses, but it's a pretty rosy world if you choose the right window.